welcome to my latest experiment. This is the big one, the one I've been waiting for all my life.
What is it?
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Oh my God.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
And there is no one that does it better.
The Guy and Harley podcast, streaming all over your face.
Perhaps that was the most important part.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Pigville on the internet. I've tried to be a good man, tried to keep my thoughts in check. My father was always right, and my mother was a train wreck. I'm a sick fuck with good luck. A sick fuck with good luck. I'm Harley Neville. Welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast.
And I'm Guy Pigden. He said sick fuck too many times for my tastes in that one.
Well, yeah, probably have to hear the original version of it to see how it works. Maybe not my somewhat poor rendition.
Bastardization.
That is Landon Tewers, T-E-W, Tewers, like towers with a T-E. So check him out. He's incredibly underground, super underground.
Landon is an interesting name.
Landon Tewers.
Who goes to, you've had a kid and you go, Landon? You know?
Well,
it's really out there.
Well, I want to know who's the person that goes, I'm going to call... They look at this cute young baby, this, brand new baby, and call it... They go, you know what I'm going to call it? Bruce.
Well, I guess
or any of those other manly names.
Well, I guess they don't now. They don't do that.
Yeah, certainly less common.
But I guess at a certain point, it was a symbol of masculinity and stuff to have that type of name. So they felt like, back in World War II or whenever, it's like, my boy is going to be a strong boy. He's going to grow up, be a man like me, fight in a war.
Yeah.
Call him Bruce.
Yeah.
And of course, that's unfortunate now, but we're all namby-pamby, metrosexual
guys and Harleys and
hipster wank-offs now, so there's no chance of that ever happening. So that's why Bruce has gone the way of the dodo.
Yeah, Guy, Harley, right up there with Chad.
Landon. So, lots to talk about on this episode.
Yeah.
Presumably.
I see you've got a lot of notes. Does that mean?
Oh, no, I actually do have quite a few topics to bring up. I mean, we've gotten a little bit behind because we took
last week
took an hour out to argue.
Last week we didn't cover anything. We just argued bitterly for more than an hour. And
we'd already had a build-up of sort of things to talk about, so... Yeah.
Well, I thought we'd start off with this giant paper mache boulder is actually really heavy. Because this is a filmmaking podcast.
It's a podcast about our lives,
and we went along last week to the premiere of that film. This giant paper mache boulder is actually really heavy, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Is it really heavy? It's not. I thought I've written kind of heavy.
I'm pretty sure it's really heavy.
It's probably really heavy.
I'm fairly certain that I've double checked that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. It exceeded all of my expectations. It's a sort of a low budget New Zealand film shot in Auckland, and it's a sci-fi sort of a comedy sci-fi, and it exceeded all of my expectations, and I genuinely laughed out loud heaps at it. There was heaps of moments that I really genuinely enjoyed.
It was very funny. It was as
opposed to when you watch a low budget film and you pretend you enjoy it, which does happen quite a bit.
Well, look, here's the thing about low budget films. 99% of them suck balls.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is, as a low-budget filmmaker ourselves, we have to support other low-budget films. That's part of our job, is to kind of be like, look, hey, we're making this shit, so we got to kind of support it.
Yeah.
If anything...
Also, 99% of our productions suck balls. No, that's not true. Ours are awesome.
But, so if anything, I actually go out of my way often to, make a point of purchasing low-budget films. Anyone interested? I Survived a Zombie Holocaust. Available. DVD, iTunes, and blah, blah, blah.
Quick aside to that. We did sell a bunch of DVDs this week. Darren, he bought one. Paul bought one. Matt Bowden, a.k.a. Starboy, he bought it on iTunes. Yeah. and it is available, so get out there and get it. Personalised signed copies. You can get them from us if you go to our facebook.com/Guy and Harley.
I'm surprised how many people haven't really grasped the iTunes model over here. Like, I don't really think that that's doing as well as it should be.
Well, the problem with the iTunes model is it's shit. Like, you pay, you want to buy it, right? It's like $11.99 or something, I think, to buy it, or maybe it's $9.99. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's like $10 to buy it, right? It's but you're probably going to watch it once. Realistically, I only watch movies once. You can hire it, but that's $6. Meanwhile, Netflix is like $12 for a whole month of watching anything you want and everything you want. You watch 2 movies on iTunes and you might as well have paid for 2 months of, well, not quite, but you know what I mean?
Also, the Netflix interface is much more... It was
friendly?
Basically. The iTunes is kind of like, everything's there, there's music, there's podcasts and this thing. And like, once you've kind of figured it out, it's really simple. But if you haven't, and you're kind of like, oh, where's the movies section? What you maybe type in, get Holocaust, type that in wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't come up. Oh, it's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to charge it through my credit card. Why do I have to log into my fucking iCloud? What the fuck is an iCloud, and why do I have it, and why do I have to log in to purchase something from iTunes? Like, there's the problem with Apple. They kind of impose things on you. But I get that. But yeah, as I was saying, I mean, like, it's important to support, filmmakers. And so I went to it with not super high expectations, just given the 99-1 rule, just given that. But we had quite a few people that we knew that were in it. And yeah, it was really really funny. It was really well done.
So I will share the trailer on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Guy and Harley. So go check that out. And that name again, this giant paper mache boulder is actually really heavy.
And it kind of harkens back. It's like an homage to like the cheesy B sci-fi movies of the sort of the 1950s, like and sort of the stuff that was going on with Star Trek that just past that time as well, references all that stuff. But, it's not, it's very original. It's not a knockoff or anything like that, and it's very funny. And that's one of those scenarios where the budget, this is what I always talk about with low-budget filmmaking, is that you have to create an idea that is sustainable on your budget. Like, there's no point, like who do you have? Like, who do you have at your disposal? Do you have like funny guys? Well, then you should probably make a comedy. But you shouldn't set it in like some ridiculous setting that's impossible, like, the high-rise buildings of Wall Street, because you can't go to Wall Street and you can't have access to those, high-rise buildings, and you don't have any money, and these people have New Zealand accents. None of it works, right? But that's what people constantly do, is they go, I love these American films. I want to replicate this American film, with my low-budget film. And then they just completely fucking fail, because it's like, those films have millions of dollars and they're starring Tom Cruise. And you don't have access to Tom Cruise. Sorry about it. You've got access to your flatmate. So what is your flatmate good at? Because he's probably not Tom Cruise. Let's just be realistic for a second here. And you also have like lots of people miscast, so you have like these like people that are meant to be like burly bodyguards, and it's some like gawky 18-year-old teenager with pimples on his face.
Yeah, that's the old trick. Hey? The old low budget filmmaker trap that they always fall into is they want to shoot things like a hitman movie. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, so it's got to be this really kind of terrifying, cold, efficient killer. And then you get, your mate from down the fucking road, or your mate from your drama class or whatever. Yeah. If you're lucky, at best you get your mate from your drama class and he's walking around with a suit on that's slightly too big for him. And
oversized suit that you got from an op shop.
And spouting off cheesy one-liners.
In a New Zealand accent, because he can't do an American accent.
Or a very bad American accent.
Either or. Whereas they were very smart with this, because they're saying, look, we're making light of the cheapness of those sci-fi films, so it doesn't matter if we have cheap effects. And in fact, the whole point was that the whole film was kind of constructed from like stuff, scraps and
shit you'd find around the house,
and hand-me-downs and all that stuff, and that just made it funnier, but it just enhanced everything. And that's like a perfect example of their, like, if they'd tried to do the same film but said, we're going to have the interior of the spaceship look like the Star Trek Enterprise from the new Star Trek movie, they're fucked. Automatically, they're fucked. And we're going to have special effects like that. You know, they're automatically digging themselves a hole that they can't ever really get out of when they don't have those resources. And by doing it the other way, they really played up that, and that was just another element that made the film so good. So I guess for overseas people or even New Zealand people, it's not going to be out for a little while. It'll be out in a few months most likely. It's probably doing the festival circuit at the moment, and it has just, I think it won Best Comedy at the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. So it's doing well overseas as well. But you know, whenever, like, just follow their page, and whenever you get the opportunity, it's made available, check it out because it's very good. I thought it was the best low budget New Zealand film I've seen.
Right.
Like, can you think of a better one?
I Survived a Zombie Holocaust.
Not counted, we had a bigger budget, and I would, like, I guess, let me rephrase, independently produced. You know, so so that means that they didn't have help from the Film Commission. They just made it themselves, and all the money that they had was sort of from their own resources. So that's my qualifier for that. Of course, the zombie film's better. Of course.
Well, of course, it's only the best New Zealand low budget independent film that you've seen until Older comes out.
Hopefully,
early next year.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Back to those DVD sales, there was also Samuel Hurley. He bought a DVD as well this week. So this is that segment I mentioned where we heap praise upon the people that have bought it. So Samuel Hurley, Darren, Paul, Matt Bowden, you guys are all legends. And anybody else out there are definitely some others as well.
Yeah. Any of the listeners that have purchased, thank you very much. That was really appreciated. And also, because we got some more stock of DVDs to sign. We purchased 20 more. We're the only one purchasing stock. I've done some research here. I talked to the guy there. Yeah. I was like, so is anyone getting like new stock into their stores?
Yeah.
And he was like, let me just have a little look. He scrolls back through a year. No. And I was like, okay, cool. How many like DVDs? I think they pressed, I thought
it was 1,000.
I think it was 1,000. It might have been 1,500. Let's just say 1,500 for now.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, so, you know, like, in terms of what you got left.
Yeah.
And he was like, just do the maths here. 480.
Right.
480. So, but with either a third or half.
Yeah.
Depending on, but I'm pretty sure a third, because I'm pretty sure that
they should get off their fucking asses and contact the likes of the Warehouse and JB Hi-Fi and shit, because I know that these places are running out of stock because people have gone in and said, I bought the last copy, or I went in and they didn't have it.
Well, I think it normally works the other way, unfortunately.
Yeah, but surely there's got to have some initiative, you know, like, okay, so we hear these are running out. They are actually, you know, look at all this commotion online. Fucking put together some little package and say, check this out, since staff, people want to buy it, you know, fucking here, buy another 20.
Yeah, well, they're not doing that, but so it's basically fallen upon our shoulders.
Well, what's good about it is we might be able to get them really cheap.
To shift 480 more
copies of I Survived a Zombie Holocaust
in our lifetimes.
Yeah. Well, you know, so far so good.
Yep.
So far so good.
That's true.
They are moving.
They are, you know.
We have set up a Facebook store. It costs us $9 a month, which is quite a rip. The profit rate margin is pretty low on these DVDs for us. I think it's okay to talk numbers, right? We can tell them how much we're buying them for and how much we're selling them for and all that. Well, not really.
Well, yeah, probably not.
Probably not.
No.
All right. Well, trust me, it's not a really big margin that we're making on each DVD.
Yeah.
By the time you take away the cost of the Facebook store, as well as the cost of the package and posting, posted packet, whatever that is.
P&P,
yeah.
Yeah.
So particularly when I send it overseas. When I see overseas, it's like $15 just to get there, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
What else?
But go out and buy it, please. What else? Well, look, we better give some feedback on last week's ordeal.
Yep.
Because, actually, speaking of low-budget films, I am acting tomorrow. Got a day on Internationum, Paulette's film. tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Got a couple of, well, it's just one scene, I think, and then one more scene later on another day.
Hasn't changed the name then?
Well,
based off our podcast.
Not yet. But I think she did mention in her last feedback that, well, that's it for now, but well, maybe it'll change.
It's interesting too, because I was thinking about that, and I was just thinking that also there is this thing with filmmakers who are starting out, like you're brash and arrogant, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the sense that you're like, I'm here to prove something. I'm here to prove.
Saying that she's just starting out.
Well,
she's been doing stuff for ages.
Yeah, but I mean, making a feature film.
So making your first feature.
Making your first feature film, you're brash and arrogant. We were. Everyone is. You have this supreme amount of confidence in yourself and in your abilities, as you should do, because that is what is going to get you through making it. But I also think that when I look back on my sort of career, I wish that I was more receptive to advice that people gave me. It took me a long time to be able to take on advice. But I also think that part of that is making, like, to some degree, you do actually have to make, you're entitled to your big mistakes. You're entitled to make those because they're the ones that you go, fuck, okay, I felt like I was going to do something amazing, and maybe you do, but also I see the pitfalls that some people pointed out to me along the way, which I ignored, and I made it so much harder for myself in doing so. And now we come to the next one or whatever, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to make it as easy as possible for myself. I'm tired of making it hard for myself. And that's how you sort of come to, because I think, just a little bit further along, you kind of like, I want to hear from everyone. I want everyone to stop me making any big, giant fucking blunders, because Jesus Christ, they are painful to try and navigate when you've made them. So I want that to, I want to try and avoid as many as possible. And whereas at the start, you're like, you know what? You're doing it your way. I'm doing it my way. Fuck you. Because, why should I listen to you? I'm doing a new thing. I'm on the new buzz. You're on the old buzz. And so, I think everyone does have that, will have to make some of their own mistakes, whether or not that title is a mistake or not. But, you kind of have to experience, making a title that's difficult. And, literally on the radio show that I was just on, they announced it as I Survived Zombie Apocalypse to begin with. Yeah.
Tyler and Luke, what are you doing?
Now, to be fair, I can't remember.
There's no to be fair. You're interviewing somebody who is.
They had he was holding the DVD in his hand,
and but also you're interviewing this person. Not you're interviewing them because of this film and about this film.
Yep.
You get the fucking name right.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's amateur. That's next level amateur right there.
But that is again the problem with the title. So even a year on from finishing this film,
the problem with the title
is living,
that lots of stupid people will fuck it up.
I'm living with the kind of effect of making a fucking title that should have been different. And so but maybe you have to go through that to be like, you know what, I'm gonna make, even though it's not as cool, it's not as cool and unique, simplifying titles and the ideas for titles is a good thing. But, that may only come after you've corrected someone for the billionth time. But I know, to be fair, he may not have said that on air. He may have said it before.
Oh, well, that's
so when we were
more forgivable
talking. So I just can't remember exactly. I just know that he originally
uttered
did
it.
Yeah.
So I will post the Internationum trailer on the Facebook page as well. Just so you got. So
there's two trailers. You've got two trailers.
Now, just before we get to this feedback, I just wanted to also say about the DVD. Trudy from the internet wants it for free. She goes, now, if you and Guy are gracious, this is a message. If you and Guy are gracious enough, then just send me a signed copy. Then my partner and I will contribute to your next feature film financially. It's like, man, if you can't afford to buy the DVD, I really doubt that you're going to be contributing to our next film financially. And, this was after a whole bunch of back and forth where she was maybe going to be buying the DVD from the Facebook store directly from us, and then she didn't do that, and then she asked for it for free.
Trudy, where the fuck is your head at? Trudy, honestly, who wants to get signed autograph? Like, there's people paying for this, but not only that, like, you do understand there's a direct correlation. So if you purchase...
Why not just pirate it?
If you purchase the film now, that might lead to us making another film, right? If you don't purchase the first film, there's going to be no more material of us making films because we couldn't afford it. Do you understand how this works? If you don't pay for the first one, the second one don't get made. This is fucking basic film financing business. So, Trudy, you really shat the bed on that one. Sorry to say.
So, I have got here some feedback. Now, we better start off with Niam's feedback and his question, because long-time listener, number one fan, Niam Hegarty.
Poor bugger, we ignored his other question.
We've ignored his questions. All right, so Niam's feedback on the fight. Yep. Ouch. Made it all the way through. Guy was right about not putting it up. That's for sure. Ha ha ha. Because Guy was going to not post last week's episode.
Yeah.
You guys still didn't answer my question. You've gone off the rails, boys.
Yeah, it's true. We did.
So I've got Niam's question here.
So let's answer that.
All right. So this is referring to Guy dyeing his hair and whether or not he should continue dyeing it grey. Hi, guys. I have some input about hair dyeing. Since I'm prematurely grey myself, my beard is insanely white, and I have had many comments by people who haven't seen me in a while. Oh my god, your beard is so grey. I'm only 33. What do you recommend? What would you recommend? Let's be honest. It looks pretty rubbish and makes me look about 10 years older. I have thought about dyeing it, but I am ginger and have never really seen a Just for Men that fits my hair colour. Am I just doomed to be that guy, or is there some beard dyeing option that would save me yet? Now, I've never really thought about the fact that ginger people, when they go grey, need to get a ginger dye. It just didn't really occur to me. It's just something that just never really passed through my mind until this very moment, Niam. Yeah. So
you've made light of something to do with your race, you know?
He has. I don't think it's light. He's not making light of it.
He's made light of, an issue that his race suffer from.
Yeah, you are using made light of wrong again. You did that last time. That's not what make light of mean. Make light of means make a joke about something. You think it means shed light on it. But it doesn't.
Shed light, sorry.
Yeah, you've shed light
on
an issue that affects your race.
On an issue that affects gingers worldwide, and that you brought to attention for non-gingers, a serious issue. What are your thoughts of this? I've got a couple of different thoughts on this one.
Well, this is really not really an answer at all, but there's another thing that I did.
That's good.
Let's get started. Here's another thing that I kind of didn't think about, or is that normal people, when they dye their hair, it's not a big deal. Like in high school, if you dyed your hair, you dyed it black one day. Oh, who cares? If I dyed my hair blonde, it's just fashion, whatever. But if a ginger person dyes their hair any color except for ginger, you go, oh, he doesn't like his hair. He's bummed out about his hair. Just something I never really thought about.
Making an automatic assumption,
you make the assumption
that he's doing it to get rid of the ginger, not because he just wants to dye his hair like everyone else sometimes likes to do.
Yeah. So it must be it's tough. It's tough.
It's tough
Prejudice.
out there. It is. He's suffering, he's yeah. Well, look, my thoughts are, I've got a couple of thoughts about this one. You've really only got a couple of options, really, because there is you can kind of, what you'd have to do is dye your hair a darker, all of it, including the beard, a darker ginger. Because they do have that. They do have like sort of auburn,
honey red, honey, what do they call it?
Like
honey blonde.
Like exactly. So it's sort of a blonde-ish, like light brown-ish, ginger-ish. That's what you'd have to do, and you would do the beard as well. I will just say from experience of having been a guy who had a beard for 3 months with massive amounts of grey in it, and then getting rid of that beard, I've had an overwhelming response of people being like, oh man, so glad the beard's gone. Oh, that made you look... My mum, ladies and gentlemen, she was like, she goes, oh, she looked at the photo of my Uber photo where I have the beard, and she was like, oh, what's going on with that photo? And I was like, yeah, look, they took it, and I didn't realize they're going to take it. And she was like, yeah, you're about one shade away from a terrorist there. And I was like, okay. And she was like, no, it's much better to have the beard be gone, guy, because, you know, it made you look about 10 years older. And I was like, And she was like, and the thing is, you don't need to look any older. And I was like, okay, yeah, good, all right. I'm just you can get out now. but there's just so many people that have been like,
Get out of my room, Mom!
I was also even taking the photos for my headshots, and the person that was taking the photos, an actress friend of ours, Lisa, she was like, God, you look so much better without the beard. Like, never have that again. Never have that. And I think, honestly, it's grey discrimination. There's like, it's fine to have, as we've established on this podcast, it's fine to have grey hair. It's not fine to have a grey beard. People really have an issue with that. And I do definitely think that grey in your hair looks much better on your head than it does in your beard. There's just something about like having a kind of a little, little patches of white. It just looks gross. So I think really you could either go like real blonde with your hair and kind of just go, this is it, man, Sid Vicious, I'm doing it punk style, bro. I'm a punk singer, so this is me. Or you could go like darker, really brown. But I think realistically, you're much better off to just accept that you can never have a beard until you're an old man, and then it doesn't matter. You know, like that's really the best solution. Speaking from experience of everyone hating on my grey beard, and obviously your experiences sound pretty much the same, is there's a lot of respect for beards right now. There's not a lot of respect for young guys with grey in their beards right now. It's just the way it is.
I personally say don't bother dyeing it, because it's just so fake. It's not going to. It won't make you happy, Liam. It won't make you happy. You know, you'll have to dye it, and then you have to dye it again. It'll be growing back. You know, you'll be wondering if people are noticing it and all that type of stuff. So I say, well, I would say shave, but nah, fuck it. I say just leave it. Just look like shit and be proud. You've got a girlfriend, don't you? Fuck it. You're all right. If you're single, well, that's a different thing. If you're single, maybe you should start shaving.
But how do you want to appear to everyone else? Like a haggard old man?
Yeah, but
is that what you want to do?
It depends what you're doing. If you're doing...
But just in day-to-day life.
Yeah, but if in day-to-day life you're a cool and interesting person, they're going to think your grey beard is cool. You know, like if a cool person rocks a grey beard, the grey beard becomes cool. Be that cool person, Liam. Be a trailblazer.
I think anyone that tries to be cool is definitely not going to be cool.
Well, you just got to be cool. You don't try to be cool.
But that's the thing, though. I think
you just are or you aren't.
I really think, especially like having sat in the Uber car, driving young people around. Yeah, they're not going to see it like that. It doesn't matter what you. It doesn't matter if you're the greatest punk rocker ever. That grey beard is going to drag you down.
But if you're the greatest punk rocker ever, you don't give a shit what the losers in the Uber think.
Well, I know, but he's not the greatest punk rocker ever.
Whoa, he's the greatest punk rocker I know.
That's true, but maybe not ever. So there's our 2 cents on that one. We finally got to that topic.
To Liam's question now.
Yeah.
So I hope you found that helpful, Liam.
Well, yes, he's got to do what I did. People will love him for it. That's what I've found. All
right, so last week we fought a lot about poetry, whether it's filmmaking, so on. Guy didn't really want to make poetry videos. I did want to make poetry videos. Jeremy Howson is first up. Now, Jeremy Howson is the man. He is currently doing Dry July. Go search Jeremy Howson on Dry July. Flick him a buck or two. My opinion on the matter is that if Harley's poetry was coming at the expense of other projects, I could see Guy's point, though still not totally agree with it. If making a music video is better for his career/show reel than making a poetry video, surely making a music video and a poetry video is better still, as it shows versatility. I also can't see how Guy went from wanting to do a poetry video last week to being sick of poetry as content this week. I thought Guy's idea of the short film for Saturn's Return was great. Why couldn't it be done as both a short film and an animated poem? That way it's good for Guy and Harley. There's no denying that someone watching the animated video would go to watch the short film based on the same poem, unless they hated it. Mm-hmm. Jeremy? And it continues a little bit here saying that Oh, ouch, I just got a cramp in my finger. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Just rub that out.
33. If you're doing cool stuff, ladies and gentlemen, people just respect you.
I was holding my phone too funny, I guess. I think the more content you can put on YouTube, the better. Yada yada. Here, this is good. I heard about you through Will Fleming's now defunct podcast, Kneel Before Pod. This led me to listen to one of your pods. I liked what I heard and subscribed and went back and listened to all of your podcasts. I also went to YouTube and watched all your content, even Drinks with Harley. I don't
is that the worst one or something? I
guess so. I thought it would be even Disgusting Hairy Man.
Disgusting Hairy Man is a classic.
It is a classic. I might share that.
I would.
I don't consider myself a poetry fan, but Harley's poetry exposes his personality in the same way your guys' skits expose his hirsute body. Guy's art reflects his art. I'm rambling. Anyway, guys, support your mate's art. He supports yours. So, hang on. I won't read all of these because there's so many. Sam from the Chris and Sam podcast. Holy shit, that was epic. Here's my feedback. Harley was right. Guy doesn't like poetry, that's cool. If he doesn't want to film poetry, that's also cool. But I find it hard to agree with an argument that the poetry thing isn't filmmaking. I don't think the subject matter decides if it is a film. A poetry clip and a music clip are pretty close to the same thing for me. Different styles and different music beats, but that's it. Anything you put on YouTube is beneficial. Be consistent. Yada yada. Chris from the Chris and Sam podcast. So that was Sam, now this is Chris. Generally, you'll like this one. Generally, I think that people that call themselves poets are pretentious and immediately lowers my expectations of them. This is the guy who got me a gig at this event, this big gig, this TEDx event. It was all through him, through his podcast and meeting him and stuff. Now he's telling me that people that call themselves poets are pretentious.
Well, yeah.
All right, poetry is dealing with emotion. Adding a video element to spoken word is filmmaking, at least as much, if not more, than music. I'm not a big fan of poetry, but reckon I've watched more spoken word videos than music videos in the last year. Brackets, Prince EA. From a business point of view, poetry videos could be more effective than music videos because they stand out from the crowd to an agency, and you'll be a bigger player in a smaller pool. Got his analogies crossed there, bigger fish. But anyway, I have watched Gravity several times. I like the message, but I was also really impressed with the way it was shot and edited. Surprised to hear that Guy wasn't involved. Creator, Guy, Harley's right. Guy needs to support the poetry, even if it's dumb. I won't read all of these. What else we got here? Ben, definitely on my side. Ben Fowler. Gary Fawcett could only listen to an hour 12 of last week's podcast. He tried to get through all of it, but at an hour 12 he couldn't. He felt uncomfortable because it felt like a domestic. Sam Hurley says, wow, I listened to last week's podcast. Holy heck, that made some interesting listening. I get that how Guy wouldn't want to be doing it, but where's the harm to him? Basically, I agree that anything that gets Pigville out there is great. Okay. Here, one more. Harrison, he says, Guy's putting himself into a very small box. Narrative, shorts, and features. Does he not realize a poem can be a narrative? Everything's fair game these days. He won't make it if he can't adapt. I would add that poetry is one of the oldest forms of storytelling.
Is that it?
One more. Joshua Marchant. He's the guy who animated my last poem for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him to animate Saturn's Return since our last podcast, and unfortunately he can't do it because he says he's a cartoonist with a capital K. He does like kind of cartoony stuff as opposed to sort of graphic novel stuff. So I've got to find somebody else. So I am looking for an animator. Songs are poems set to music. That's all they are. And while poetry videos may not help your combined ambitions as filmmakers directly, I don't see how it could hurt either. No producer will turn you away because you make poetry videos. It adds variety to your channel. When we worked together, I listened to the live version of Message in a Bottle, then to some of your other poems. Then I explored the Pigville channel and ended up taking my friends to see I Survived a Zombie Holocaust. I would never have seen your film if it weren't for your poems. Just saying. There you go. I'll leave it at that. But there is more.
Yeah. Well, I think also my message really got a little bit confused, because one, I've only done one music video. I don't want to just do a million music videos. I want to do short films, web series, and feature films. That's what I want to do. Music videos are cool, but like I'm not interested in doing music videos at the expense of those other three, and I'm not interested in so I guess that's one aspect of it. I guess the other aspect of it is that I was concerned that it was 100% at the expense of the other things, because I do want Harley to write. Like, I guess this was the argument that we had a discussion about it afterwards. We had a Pigville meeting about it.
I was so irate in the morning after the last episode that I called a Pigville Productions business meeting at a local bar during Dry July.
And that, it's like, because this is the thing, is we all focus our energies in certain areas. And what we choose to focus our energies on dictates what will be made. And 100%, I think that, Harley's poems prove that he can write very articulately. And that is a very transferable skill to writing very articulate short or feature films or web series. And so, what he likes to do is poetry, and that's what inspires him. But, I really do believe that, like, a lot of the stuff that you have to write in those other areas, you're not necessarily really inspired by, you're kind of grinding them out, but your skill as such and his skill as such is good enough that what you grind out is really good. And so, that was I guess a hope that I would, it's great that you're super inspired to do poetry and you're writing these very well written poems. I would love, but in terms of the Pigville stuff, I do, and we did sort of agree that ultimately those other things are more helpful for the sort of where I guess not, where we want to go in terms of that side of things. So it's cool that these poems are great, but what I'd love to see is those other sides of where they could be as shorts and features, and I don't mean just poetry videos. And so I think that was like really where I was coming from. And so, for example, I think someone said there, he just had a great idea for the short like last week. So why not do that? Well, the thing, and we did talk about this a little bit, is that's a lot of work. And it's like, yeah, that is a good idea. And I do think it would be a really good poetry video, but I also think that that would directly come at the expense of making a short film of some other type that may benefit us more ultimately, because you have to remember that, like, also Harley is he is the YouTube guy, like he's the online guy. I'm not the YouTuber online guy. So who I deal with is other producers, other filmmakers, what I submit to, with our content is like the television networks, and stuff like that. And so, those are the things that I want us to do. And like, if Harley tomorrow laid down this amazing script for a skit, for an online thing, for a short film, for a fucking feature film, and it just blew my head off, like these poems have the ability to do to other people, that would be an amazing moment in my life. I would be, super excited about that. But Harley also made the point that, if you don't have any of those up your sleeve, then there's no harm, which I guess was one of the other points, there's no harm in doing the poetry stuff, which is true, and that I should be more supportive if, and I guess, again, probably my concerns is that, we do have, which I don't think you read one of them, which is like, if there's stuff to be done on older, I'd love to see you do that because that's important. I think Paulette said that. And, that was my other concern, is that we do have a lot of boring, shitty jobs to do, because boring, shitty jobs are kind of just have to be done, and it will come down to me or Harley who has to do them. And if I have to do them all, that's not so good.
The conclusion of the business meeting was that Guy is going to support my projects as much as I support his projects. 100% behind me.
Yeah.
Team.
Yeah, it is. But, I did broach those ideas to him, which I've just discussed. So hopefully he will also take those on board and start writing some amazing short film tomorrow.
I think that was not at all the conclusion that we came to at the end with regards to what I'm going to start writing. I write whatever strikes me, whenever it strikes me. And lately it hasn't really been any short films, although I was going to send a short skit to you that I think I've already sent to you, but it's the perfect short YouTube skit that we could do easily. I'm just going to read one more here because it's from your sister, your very own sister. Catching up on the podcast archive at the moment. Can't help but notice, Guy, that you were a lot more supportive and encouraging of the poetry and Harley's quest to become a poet last year. What happened?
Well, I think exactly what I just said happened. So, I'm more worried about some of these other things not getting done that need to be done. And I'm also like, wow, these poems are great. But man, I would love to, because there's the thing, again, another one of my arguments is like, if Harley becomes an amazing, successful stand-up comedian, he can parlay that into a television show. I don't buy this. We're not getting back into this. I do not agree with any of the shit Guy's been saying so far. Just for the record, most of it I feel like I really quite thoroughly refuted. But we won't get back into it. The answer is, Abby, my poetry's doing too good. But
now Renato,
but I do, that's the thing. Is this is the thing. If you do well in poetry, that's awesome. That's great. I really think...
We're not getting back into it, Guy. If I do well in poetry, I can transfer that over to acting and performing and Pigville as a whole. If I do well in poetry, that's really awesome. It's no less helpful to me than becoming good at stand-up comedy. I don't care. If Prince EA goes to a network and says I've got X amount of 100 million views on YouTube and I've got an idea for a sitcom, they're going to be interested to hear about it at least. Just the same as a comedian, except for maybe now it's a lot more original. It's a fresh spin. It's not just a comedian; it's a poet who's doing a TV show about whatever.
But on a smaller scale, in terms of moderate success, that's less of a proven route than that's what comics make TV shows. That's normally what happens.
Sure, not really in New Zealand, and the ones they make in New Zealand are always uniformly terrible.
But I will say that
maybe we should try something outside of the mold.
But I will say that a lot of comedians have had that opportunity even over here, even right now, with Funny Girls and stuff like that.
And most of them sucked though. Pretty much all of them sucked, and the only one that didn't suck was Flight of the Conchords, who went and did it in America.
Well, we haven't seen Funny Girls, so we probably can't comment on that one as an example of something most recently that's exactly what they did.
Right, but if it's anything like every single other New Zealand comedy that's ever come out, that's New Zealand backed.
But it would be wrong to assume, though, that ours would be bad.
Our sitcom.
Yeah. Just because, that's...
Just because we're Kiwis.
That's been the trajectory so far.
Look, anyway, moving on. Got two pieces of listener questions / feedback. Renato Miguins from Brazil. He says, I was looking for some good podcasts to get to learn English with, and I found yours. It's great because I have fun while learning. Just keep doing the good job.
Cool.
And then Tyler Adams. This is the last listener question. I've got to catch up on these podcasts, so I'll get to that. But for now, I've got a topic. What do you think of Taika Waititi directing Thor Ragnarok? Now, we have mentioned that before, obviously, on the show, but I think it's really awesome. And no matter, like, I personally, I see a benefit for me personally, Harley Neville, because if he's doing well in Hollywood, you know, he's going to start, I guarantee some more Kiwis will be getting cast in things, and Kiwis will be getting used for Hollywood jobs and stuff. It'll start happening, I reckon. And just the higher profile our country is, and more successful it is, you know, the better it is for us. You know, people are going to start looking to New Zealand for directors because Peter Jackson and because Taika Waititi, and you know, whatever, or Andrew Adamson or whatever it is, all those ones. So yeah, I think it's a really good thing, and I think that it can't hurt at all.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of a bit strange that it hasn't happened sooner, in the sense that, you know, Taika could well be kind of our next Peter Jackson, in the sense that Peter Jackson is like the director that you associate with New Zealand, and he sort of did a series of New Zealand films and then started making American films, and in fact started making American films in New Zealand, and now he's the guy that we all know. And since Peter Jackson's kind of ascension, that hasn't really happened. Like we do have a few filmmakers that work in Hollywood, but, you know, not that many, and not with that much regularity. So it kind of makes perfect sense. Like, see, over here, Taika is the dude. Like, he has made he has now made the highest grossing New Zealand film of all time. And then he's also made, if you just go back he made the highest grossing comedy of all time. So, like, Boy was like just the highest grossing comedy, and it was in the top 10. And then Hunt for the Wilder People is also a comedy, is in the top 10, and is number 1, full stop. And then also What We Do in the Shadows, which was made for very cheap, was incredibly successful both here and, maybe more importantly, in like America. Was like a big sort of like underground hit in America. So it makes perfect sense that he, like, you know, would be going on to make feature films in America, and I'm sure he probably had a lot of opportunities to do that, and was deciding which ones he's going to do. And at the end of the day, you know, I think some people would criticize and go, well, you're making a sequel to a superhero movie that no one really, that one may have kind of Thor, the character may have been kind of played out. Superhero movies, full stop, are definitely played out. But I think that on the flip side of that is that he is certainly going to inject some humor and some interesting stuff into the new Thor, without a shadow of a doubt, as long as his hands don't become tied by the producers above him. And also, like, Marvel is the most successful studio in America right now. So for lofty kind of artistic ambitions to kind of say, I don't want to do it because it's Thor and it's a sequel and all those things I said, would be quite short-sighted. And also, just like, at the end of the day, what are we all trying to do? We want our films to be seen by the biggest audience possible. Well, he has been given a platform with that movie to make a movie that will be seen by the absolute biggest audience possible in the entire world. So of course you have to take it. So I think it's cool. I think it's good. And I hope that, I'm sure it'll probably be really good.
Yeah.
Are you going to go see it though, Harley? Because you do hate superhero films.
I very much doubt it. I mean, very unlikely. If I get given some sort of tickets to the opening or something, freebies, I'll go along. But no, otherwise I just do not see it happening. There's a whole bunch of ones I need to see before that. I still haven't seen The Revenant.
Yeah, right.
You've got to watch that. So I'll get around to that. Hey, Guy, guess what?
What?
I had an audition.
Oh, good for you. And how was it? I hope it was fucking good, because it's useless now, isn't it? Fuck's sake, man, you're amateur. But no! Don't shut me up. This is the second time that he doesn't give a fuck. For fuck's sake. Let's not take a fucking minute. Let's go again. And let's not have you fucking walking in. You're unbelievable, man. You're unfucking believable. Number of times you're strolling and fucking around in the background. That's what that is, man. I'm telling you.
Well, let's hear about it.
Was that the long one or the short one?
We'll see.
We'll see. So it went pretty shit. It was for a large chocolate brand, and it was a unique one because it was for it was a presenter role kind of thing. So it was sort of a presenting audition, and I had to pretend to interview people and be a presenter as opposed to being an actor. And I planned beforehand a whole bunch of sort of questions and witty quips I could make and that type of thing, and that went all right. But then where I fucked up was they're like, okay, pretend you're interviewing this person. So I sat down and pretended I was interviewing. I asked this guy some questions, and he didn't really have any answers. He was just like a Joe Public. And I was like, what's your favorite kind of chocolate? Whatever, just like dumb questions. And then at the end, I ran out of questions. But see, what I fucked up was I hadn't rehearsed how to get out of any interview. That's what I should have done. I should have had a wee bit at the back of my mind that was like, okay, cool. So here's some chocolate. Have a nice day. Fuck off. But I didn't have that. So I ran out of questions. And then I was just like, and yeah. Or something, equally useless. And I have not had a call back. That was going to pay $8,000 if I got it, and it was going to involve traveling the entire country for like 6 weeks.
Interviewing people about chocolate.
Yeah, interviewing people about chocolate and sort of like doing cool events at each place, like luging and Rotorua and bungee jumping in Queenstown and all that sort of stuff. You have to assume. Road tripping from the top of the north to the bottom of the south. So it would have been a great gig to get. It would have been really fun. Paid pretty good, and paid holiday for a big brand, but I fucked up.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't really think you fucked up. I just think that's not you.
I think I could totally do that. Like, I have done some brand ambassador style work in the past. I used to be a vitamin water brand ambassador, and I was fine at it. Like my job was to pull up in a truck and, rally up a crowd and give them samples of the vitamin water and sort of make jokes. And edutain was what my title, I was an edutainer because I was educating them about the brand while entertaining them at the same time. And, it was fine and it was fun. And it was something I could totally do. Now, admittedly, it's not something I'm super passionate about, but I could definitely do it.
I think though there's a certain level of smarminess
required to be a presenter.
Kind of it's kind of like over the top smarminess, and maybe not smarmy is the right word, but exuberance and enthusiasm for bullshit.
Yeah.
That I don't think that you naturally possess.
Well, it was pretty funny because, here I am, this 33-year-old bald guy with a beard, and that, you just know, the brief said, 25 to 45 or something like that. So it's quite a wide age range. But that the guy they choose probably isn't going to be a short bald guy with a beard. It's going to be a handsome 25-year-old, with muscles and a great smile. That's what they want for these types of brands.
Yeah, I just think that, if you picked out a guy in a room, if you sat down in a room, you're having a dinner party with a bunch of people, you could pick out the presenter, and he wouldn't be you.
Wouldn't be me. Not exuberant enough.
Well, no, not exuberant and enthusiastic enough about bullshit and kind of just, hey, it's me, Harley Neville. How's it going? Oh, you love your chocolate, don't you? What do you got in there? Butter chocolate? And then some stupid, and that's the thing, bad jokes, not good jokes, not clever, insightful, cutting jokes, just bad jokes. I just don't think that is quite within the mastery of your wheelhouse, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Well, as it happens, nice segue, I'm actually booked in to do a 2-day presenter course in a couple of weekends.
Well, maybe you'll learn those skills.
Well, it is a shame that this audition came just before I did the presenter course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's $345 for 2 days. But I'm doing it as prep for my TEDx performance because I've got to speak to the crowd before I perform. So I want to be kind of, good on stage and calm.
How many here of you hate the idea of God? Show of hands. Who hates that concept?
I won't be bringing up God, although God does get a mention in one of my poems. They selected it, not me.
Right. But you're not doing Gravity, no?
No, I'm not doing Gravity.
Right.
Yeah. I have a big update.
Right.
For this is I probably should have done this earlier in the show. Sperm Quest. The new segment, Sperm Quest.
Oh, right, yeah.
All about, I am thinking about donating sperm, and Guy thinks it's a horrible idea.
Yep.
So if you ignore last week's fight, it's our fight before last week.
Yep.
Before last week's fight. So yeah, sperm donating. I want to do it. And I have now been booked in on Monday to go in and have like a consultation with them. But I'm on a 3-day wanking stand down because they want me to build up a massive old load to blow into a cup on Monday afternoon.
That'll be a big challenge for you.
Tell you what, Monday afternoon can't come soon enough, eh? So that's happening. That's happening on Monday afternoon. I'm going into a place, a clinic, and wanking into a cup, and then they're going to test the sperm to see if it's swimming and all that, and if it's freezable and if it thaws well, and because I guess some people's sperm doesn't thaw very well. And other people's does, something like that. So they're doing all those tests.
Angie walks in. Oh, Harley, I would love to have sex with you right now. I just feel so attracted to you. Sorry, love, jizzing in a cup on Monday. Can't do it. Got to build up a load.
Well, I would just have to. I don't know why I'd become Australian all of a sudden, but I would just have to edge. I'd just be living on the edge, which is where you have sex or wank, but then you just hold off just before you come, and then just leave it. Just leave it.
Good luck.
Just hands off.
Good luck.
So yeah, so that's the sperm update. So I'll have more updates for you next week about that. Right. Sperm Quest.
Well, I guess we should finish things up pretty shortly.
Okay.
But we might as well mention that my lifelong dream of becoming a professional wrestler is becoming a reality.
That's awesome. Guy and I had a contract when he was 14, or pretty sure it was fourth form, and the deal was that if he didn't become a big WWE wrestler by the age of 30, he would pay me and 2 other friends $100 each, and if he was, then we would have to pay him $100 each.
I'm so glad that was a lot of money to us back then.
Yeah.
So we didn't bet any kind of actual...
Well, I don't know why you give a shit. You haven't paid me.
But, I mean, that is one day affordable.
Yeah.
Whereas, if I'd said, fucking $500 each, $1,000 each, come on, fucking I wanted to see some money, I'd be really sweating.
I'm really glad that it was only 100 because... it means you'll actually pay it, I reckon. I do actually reckon that one day I'll get that $100 out of you.
Oh, yeah, I think there's
whereas if it was 1,000, it's like you can't really expect
a high likelihood.
$1,000.
Well,
unless you became really rich.
Yeah. And even then, I think to a rich guy, just dropping $1,000, just giving away $1,000, doesn't feel good.
Well, they don't get rich by giving their money away.
Doesn't feel good. So I went to a professional wrestling training session. Basically, there is, there's the WWE, which is the big professional wrestling. That's what everyone knows. Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, all that stuff, and into the Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and then the people now like John Cena and CM Punk and whoever else. But where did all those wrestlers come from? Well, they started by doing wrestler training and then working the independent wrestling circuit, which is basically... a series of very small wrestling promotions in different cities who put on shows, normally in sort of high school gymnasiums, where there's between 20 and 100, 200 people, maybe some of the bigger shows, maybe like your big marquee event, 500 or 1,000 people, but generally speaking, super small scale, 50 people in the arena, and that is where all your wrestlers, your favorite wrestlers, started. And then they went to the big time. And so there is an independent wrestling promotion called IPW here in New Zealand, which I saw on their website. And as I think we've mentioned maybe a couple of times on the podcast, I am considering or definitely interested in doing a professional wrestling movie, which is kind of would, equate similarly to like something like The Wrestler, but a bit lighter. But the ins and outs of the wrestling industry. So not just no one's pretending it's real. We're discussing matches backstage, how they should go, etc., etc. And anyway, and so I went to my first thing because basically I want to be in this film and I want to be able to, I have to basically convincingly be able to do some wrestling in it. And that's really my main goal is to get good enough that I can portray a wrestler on screen. Like that is my fundamental number one goal. Now, if I get past that stage where I'm good enough to actually wrestle, then I would definitely do that for, the 50 or 100 people that go to these IPW shows. And I was pretty worried when I went in because basically there's lots of stories about how essentially, because wrestling is actually very hard to learn and to get good at, and so there was certainly a hazing process for a lot of people where they kind of beat the shit out of them, and then if those people come back after being beat the shit out of for real, they're like, okay, now we'll probably start teaching you properly. But we want to wean out all the assholes. So this is kind of how we do it, is we like kill you for like a couple of sessions. And then if you've kind of got the heart and integrity to come back after that, okay, now we'll train you properly. So I was definitely very concerned that was going to happen. Fortunately, it didn't. Everyone was like super nice and chilled out. It was extremely difficult. I think what you realize very quickly is like, damn, like every single move that you do has the ability to seriously injure either yourself or the other person. So every move that you do, that you execute, even from falling over, is actually quite dangerous, and can go wrong very easily. And so in that thing that we started off with, like sort of a warm-up, which did almost break me. I was really struggling through their warm-up. And then we started doing, I guess, the sort of very fundamental, so you got taught how to fall, but just on a mat. So didn't do really anything in the ring. It was just like, this is how to execute this simple move, like a hip toss. This is how you execute a scoop slam safely. This is how you fall on your back safely. This is how you fall on your side safely. Let's do that from a higher angle and see if you can still fall safely. And that's the kind of thing that I was taught, along with a lot of, I guess what you'd say called tumbling, where you're sort of doing forward rolls from your left and right hand, and backward rolls, and rolling to one side, rolling to the other side, and those sorts of things, which are all sort of designed to get you, I guess, sort of more sort of acclimatized to the ring, and you'll see people do bits and pieces like that while they're wrestling. And it was very interesting. It was a lot of fun. And I was very sore the next day. And I will be going back again next week. I honestly think the most likely thing that's going to happen is in about 3 sessions' time, I'm going to seriously injure myself and give up. I think that's the most likely thing. I think the other thing to know is that I am 33 years old, which is about 13 to 15 years older than most people when they start professional wrestling. There is only, that I know of, one successful person that started at about my age, like that.
Who was that?
Became a good wrestler. His name's DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. He became the world champion in WCW back in sort of 1997.
But he didn't start till he's in his 30s.
He didn't start till he was in his 30s, and he became a pretty solid wrestler, and got very popular, and didn't really look like, he kind of looked like, well, he didn't look great, so he didn't have an amazing look or anything. He just kind of got over it through his sort of passion and his microphone skills and all that stuff. So, but a lot of the people in the class, well, everyone is more advanced than me. Everyone is fitter than me. But everyone was also 10 years younger than me, with the exception of, I think, one guy who was doing it.
That must have been sobering.
Well, it more just remind me of like, because like I'm sure that they kind of leap out of bed the next day and are just like, yep, I'm just 21 and my body just recovers that quickly. But you know, I hobbled out of bed stiff as hell for 3 days, and again, I say we didn't even do any like bumps in the ring, and a bump is when you take a fall in the ring, and that is. Again, people think, oh, it's wrestling, so it's fake, right? And it's like, well, no, when you fall on the ground, it's sore no matter what. And no, you're not falling on a trampoline. You're falling on a hard wood floor with a spring in it, so you don't break your spine when you do it. But essentially, falling any kind of wrong way is excruciatingly sore, and falling the right way is just a little bit sore. And that's your kind of two options for bumping. So I'm not really looking forward to when I do have to do that in the ring, but we'll give it a shot. But yeah, I think serious injury or just enough injury that I can't really do the training anymore at my age is the most likely outcome. But we'll keep you posted.
Well, I just want you to know that if you decide to start doing some video content for the YouTube channel about your journey, to become a professional wrestler, I just want to let you know I'm all for it. I think that we should encourage that because that's good for subscribers and all that stuff.
It certainly is kind of interesting. I did consider doing that, but I think the problem is that there's such a high likelihood that I'll give up.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like, hey guys, I'm going on this journey. All follow with me. Yeah, like, and then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, guys, got some bad news. I really hurt my tailbone this time round, and I think I'm never going to do this again.
Guys, I got some bad news. I had a boo-boo.
Yeah, basically.
I don't like this anymore.
And I don't like this, and I can't really do it anymore. And I think because there's such a high likelihood of that, it's not worth doing. I also did chat to a few of the people there, and I was like, so how long between when you start training to when you have your first match? And they're like, oh, well, you know, about a year if you're doing well. And I was like, holy shit.
That makes sense. If you were doing it, you'd have to do it regularly, though. Like, how often are the sessions?
Well, that's the thing. So they have it every Wednesday.
Right.
But
so
then
if you did it once a week,
well, that's the thing.
You're getting pretty good.
That's only the beginners. So once you get to the next stage, you can go on Thursdays and Tuesdays.
Right.
And maybe Saturdays. Because that's I think there is a couple of issues because they only wrestle once a month. They have an event once a month.
Yeah.
And normal wrestlers may wrestle, 3 to 5 times a week. And so I think that would slow things down a little bit. But I was also like, again, it's that age thing. It's like, so wait, if I do not injure myself and I'm amazing and I really pick up this, which I'm not a super athletic dude or anything. Like, I don't have a super aptitude for like this type of thing. I'm not like a gymnast or anything that would just be able to do half the stuff. I'm like, how do I do a forward roll onto my right hand? That's my bad hand. That feels weird. Like that's strange to me. Like, even doing that stuff, I'm like, fuck, I've got to do a forward roll. I didn't do this since I was a little kid. So, I do think that there's the failure rate is high, and also just a year for, again, if you're 21, you're like, oh God, I got to be 22 when I'm wrestling. And I'm like, God, I'm going to be 34 if I'm lucky, to have a match. But again, my goal is really just to get good enough that I can pretend to have a match in a movie that I make. But, Harley, you will have to get down there, mate.
I will.
You will have to participate in that training at some point.
Well, that sounds pretty reasonably fun to me. Reasonably exciting.
I will say, honestly, it is all of those things for sure. Like, you would not like be there rolling your eyes. You'd be like, wow, these people are all like super athletic, doing super interesting athletic things and making me do things that I don't know how to do, and I'm trying to do, and that's quite interesting.
The problem with me for wrestling is just all that man touching, all that sweaty man touching. I'm just not really cool with all that. Like, I just don't really want to, like, I don't want a guy's sweaty armpit on my head, and I don't want to put my sweaty armpit on his head, And it's not I'm uncomfortable with my sexuality thing or anything like that. It's just kind of gross. I just don't really want that.
Yeah, well, that will definitely happen.
Yeah, so that's where I start having having some. It's the same reason I never got into like any sports really. It was all that man touching, really. Rugby and stuff. Too much man touching in there.
It was purely a hygiene issue.
Now look, one last very quick topic before we go. I was rude to a disabled man. I didn't mean to be, but it was after our big fight. You and I had our fight.
Yep.
The next day, I was angry all day. I was pretty shitty all day, and I went to Subway to to get my sub, and I got to the front of the line, and there was a guy in front of me actually, and the FPOS had stopped working for him. For the customer in front of me. So he the dude was like, oh, it's not working, can you go over to the gas station, and which is in the same, it's a gas station and Caltex under the same roof kind of thing. So can you go there and get some cash from the Caltex? And he was like, sweet, and he went. Then I get to the front of the line. He's like, have you got cash? And I'm like, no, I don't. And he's like, well, can you go get some cash from the Caltex? And I'm like, yes, I can. I walk over, and the guy there at the Caltex, he's had a stroke, and is like one of his arms is kind of down. And, but he's been working there for ages. But he's like, so the guy in front of the German guy who was the customer in front of me. No, so the guy behind the counter is the disabled guy.
Oh, okay.
So he's working there.
Well, this is even worse.
Yeah, so he's working.
You abused a disabled staff member
on minimum wage. Yeah. And so I went over there, and there was the other customer was a German dude, and he was like, can I get out some cash? And the guy was like, no, you have to buy something. And at this point, I was like, no, look, if POS isn't working at Subway, I'm not buying shit to buy more shit. Well, we're not buying shit to buy more shit.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? Oh, I haven't heard anything about it. And then he spoke, and he was an Indian guy, spoke in Indian to the Subway dude, and then they yelled across the shop, had a big conversation about it. And then he was like, well, we're not even owned by the same people. It's not the same company.
It's a very valid point that he's making.
And I was so insolent. I was so far beyond caring about his excuse. I knew he was going to give me the money, and I was like, yeah, and I just stood there and kind of stared at him, rudely, got my cash, and then got my Subway.
So you didn't buy anything?
No. Of course not. I said, give me the fucking cash. I'm not buying shit to buy shit. And also, come on, fuck off. They're definitely owned by the same people. It's a Subway and a Caltex, all owned by Indian guys. I just don't imagine that it's two separate Indian companies under the same roof. It might be, but I don't really reckon it is. I reckon it's a thing. You buy it, you go, I'm going to open a Caltex Subway. But
you don't think that they're probably just Indian staff because they're the ones that can only get those jobs?
Nah, because I think lots of them are owned by. I think lots of Subways are owned by Indians. It's a thing. They moved out of the dairy racket, and now they're in the Subway racket. Yeah,
and Uber.
Yeah. And so, yeah, but anyway, I did feel bad about that. Kind of the next day, I was kind of, fuck. Yeah, I was pretty rude to that guy for no real reason. I was just having a shitty day, and he was fucking me off. So I need
this poor stroke victim.
So I'm going to apologize to him. So next episode, I should have an update about how I apologize to the stroke victim that I abused.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be the bigger man.
I think the worst thing about that is that you didn't get anything else. I would have been more okay with it if you just shouted at him, but then bought a packet of peanuts.
Yeah.
But the very fact that you forced him, intimidated this poor stroke victim who was like, I have rules here. I cannot get that is a golden rule. You cannot get any cash out unless you buy something. That's the golden rule of any cash out at a service station or somewhere like that. You made him go against his core beliefs and intimidate him, and he was like, look, I'm a stroke victim. This guy can take me any second. I will just give him the cash and hope he goes away.
I don't think he was scared. For the record, I don't think he felt physically threatened. He just thought I was an asshole. So yes, I'm going to apologize to him, and I'll get back to you about it.
Okay, well, I had an audition as well, but I probably we've got to finish this up.
So you're going to leave it at that?
Yeah.
Right. So
cliffhanger, I had an audition. We'll talk about it next week.
We'll open next week's episode with, oh, good for you.
So another classic cliffhanger.
See you next week.
See ya.
You've been listening to the Guy and Harley podcast, proudly brought to you by Pigville Productions.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.